Hey guys, Mark Holthe here, back with another video. In this episode, we're going to address this: why your immigration application gets refused so easily. We know that immigration officers are not always the kindest folks, but why do they have to be so mean? Well, that's what we're going to cover in today's video. Okay, I think you guys have heard me say on numerous occasions that the immigration officers are just downright cruel sometimes. Well, let me go through really quick 4 reasons why it is that way. And I think many of you know I did work as an officer before I became a lawyer. And yeah, so I've got a little bit of inside knowledge, pulling the curtain back kind of stuff. But let me show you something here. I'm going to shift over here. Take a look. Right here, this right here is what we're dealing with. An officer who is at home, crammed into a small little nook in her apartment. Maybe her family's there, and she is plugging away in this little tiny laptop with hardly any room. Now, in fairness, possibly, maybe there's a little bit more room here, right? But this is what we've got with immigration officers. So they are in their homes trying to process applications, and these are some other factors that they are dealing with. Right off the bat, I'm going to show you this one. Number 1, the need for speed. And what I mean by that is this need for speed is the fact that officers, when they are processing applications, what's operating in the background is the fact that they have to process these within a set period of time. In other words, they're given timelines by their supervisors to get through your application as quickly as possible. But not only that, the need for speed also is reflected in the overall processing times that immigration says it's going to take to process an application. And when they say an express entry application is going to be processed in 6 months, well, there better be a very good reason why they can't get it processed. Well, yes, the pandemic is one of them. But the reality is those officers are under that pressure to get the application turned around quickly. So there is a need for speed. And when they're trying to do it quickly, they're not giving you any breaks, which leads to number 2, the one-touch policy. This policy effectively means that you are not going to be given a second chance. You only get one chance. If you're submitting an application and there's something wrong, that officer is going to take that application. They're going to fill out a quick little rejection letter, check off whatever box, and they don't have to check off everything. They just have to find one thing that is good enough to return it, and it's off of their desk. They no longer have to worry about meeting a quota because, at least for that particular application, because it's done and out. It's counted the same as if it was an approval, virtually. Number 3, annual targets. Not only are there processing times that an officer has to meet, but an officer also has to help the government meet its annual targets by processing more applications. We know 2021, 108,000 and a little bit more is the target for economic skilled worker programs like CEC, FSW, Federal Skilled Trade. Those 3 programs account for 108,000. My goodness. Officers are going to be working like crazy to meet that quota. And so that's one of the realities that's also resulting in this heavy emphasis on number 2, the one-touch policy. Now, big 4, right here, officers are not paid to think. Now, let me clarify that a little bit. I'm going to remove these and I'm going to put this one back up. Officers, I'm not saying that they are not super intelligent, that they're very capable, but the whole system is automated. It is designed to remove any thinking out of the equation. And what I mean by thinking is an officer, well, let me give you an example. Okay, where's something that maybe an officer might have to think about? Well, what about language testing? Okay, the way the government has set this up now, they don't have to think at all about whether or not someone has a very good English language level. And they don't have to think about how that one person compares to another. When they went to a pool for express entry where they created a comprehensive ranking system, they needed a specific way of determining exactly what a person's level of English is compared to someone else. Now, before express entry existed, and for a number of years, the officers were required to determine if there was a sufficient level of English language to immigrate through the Federal Skilled Worker Program. And applicants actually needed to submit, if they came from an English-speaking country, they didn't have to write any formal test, but they'd have to submit a writing sample. And then the officer would have to read it, and the officer was the one who was making a decision whether or not that level of English was sufficient, okay? So they totally did away with that. And so officers don't have to think, and that's why when you come from the US or you come from Australia or the UK, that's why you have to actually write a language test. Because, like I said, officers are not paid to think. So if we can jump back here and we add these back in, I'm not saying once again that an officer isn't smart, but they have automated everything. And because of that, if what you're presenting does not fit nicely into all of those little boxes, and it's not easy for an officer to quickly verify the information you're providing, it's going to get returned. So that is basically why your application gets returned so easily. So the critical thing you have to do is make sure that you are not giving that officer any reason whatsoever to refuse your application. And how do you do that? Well, in many cases, you may need a little bit of assistance. And when it comes to express entry, there are representatives that you can hire to help, like myself and my office. You also have other alternatives like my step-by-step course for express entry and the masterclass that I have built on right after it. Well, you have access to life for your entire life. You have access to all the course material, but then added onto it, you have a 2-week masterclass with me where every day I get on for 10 days and answer people's questions that are in that master group. So it's kind of like the course is awesome. And then anything that kind of you're uncertain of, that's where me, Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, stepping in, I give you a hand to clarify those little things that you're just not certain about so that you have peace of mind and you can sleep at night. So when we go back here and we look at these reasons, what are they? Why does it get refused so quickly? It's because of the need for speed, that they have a one-touch policy, annual targets, and they're not paid to think. And I guess one other last little thing that I'll put on here as a little bit of a bonus is the fact that immigration has been hiring officers like crazy. And some of them truly are inexperienced. And it's even possible that your application, if it's hard for that officer and they don't know where to look to get the answers, and you haven't presented your material in a way that makes it as easy as possible for them to approve, the junior officers and the new ones could very well miss what you're saying. They just don't have the experience. So they're following that checklist religiously. All right, guys, click on the link below to subscribe to my next course that's going to be coming, and they come fast and furious. But this one for this episode is going to be on Monday, February the 22nd. So if you want in, get in now. It's way better to do it at the beginning before sometimes you even get your ITA, but you Feb 13ers, this is ideally situated for you. All right, Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, just doing my best to help you out there. Take care, everyone.